Welcome to our deep dive exploring Ayurveda and Prakriti, this idea of a personalized guide to well-being. We're so lucky to have expert speaker joining us who can help us break down these ancient concepts and make them relevant to, our lives today. We're going to explore fascinating connections between personality, body type, even our food preferences. So, expert speaker, can you give us a quick overview of how Ayurveda views this idea of a personal blueprint?
Ayurveda recognizes that each of us is unique and that we have this individual constitution known as Prakriti. It shapes every aspect of us, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's something we're born with, and it pretty much stays constant throughout our lives.
Right. And in your notes, you mentioned how intriguing the concept of the doshas is, those fundamental energies in Ayurveda. Would you say they play a role in this whole Prakriti thing?
Absolutely. The three doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, are the cornerstones of Prakriti. Think of them as these universal forces, but they show up differently in each of us.
Okay, love that. Now, in your research, you mentioned being drawn to the Vata dosha. What's the lowdown on Vata?
Well, imagine a quick, light breeze. People with a dominant Vata dosha, they're often energetic, creative, quick learners. They love change, new experiences. But on the flip side, they might struggle with anxiety or dryness, both physically, like dry skin, and mentally, feeling scattered.
So, if someone's feeling a bit all over the place or can't sleep, could that be their Vata talking?
It could be a sign that their Vata's a bit out of whack. And while we're talking about balance, let's move on to the fiery Pitta dosha. I know you were drawn to their intensity.
I am. I am. Always admired that fire.
Pitta is like that blazing sun, intense, focused, natural leaders. They radiate warmth and drive. But, when Pitta's out of balance, they might experience inflammation, skin problems, even anger.
It's amazing how these descriptions go beyond just the physical stuff, right? You're talking about their personality and mental tendencies too.
Exactly. And finally, we have Kapha, which you can picture as a solid mountain, grounded, calm, nurturing. They're the peacemakers, amazing stamina. But sometimes they need a little push to get moving, and if their Kapha's off kilter, they might experience sluggishness or have trouble managing their weight.
From your notes, it seemed like you connected with both Vata and Kapha. Do you think we all have a bit of all three doshas?
Oh, absolutely. We all have a unique mix, but usually one or two doshas are more dominant, and that's what really shapes our Prakriti.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm already starting to see how understanding these dominant doshas could be like a key to self-awareness. Now, you mentioned some traditional methods used in Ayurveda to determine Prakriti. What are some of those?
Traditionally, Ayurvedic practitioners use a few different approaches. They might ask detailed questions about your physical characteristics, your mental and emotional tendencies, even your lifestyle, habits.
So things like body type, digestion, how you deal with stress, even food cravings, all that plays a role.
Exactly, they take it all into account. And they also use this fascinating technique called nadi prediksha, which is pulse diagnosis.
Wait, pulse diagnosis? You mean they can tell all that just from feeling your pulse?
It might sound surprising, but yeah, a skilled practitioner can pick up these subtle variations in your pulse that correspond to which doshas are more prominent. It's a very intricate and, nuanced practice.
You mentioned in your research that you were particularly interested in this pulse diagnosis. What made it so intriguing?
I think it's the idea that so much information can be gleaned from something as simple as your pulse, right? It really speaks to the depth and the subtlety of this ancient Ayurvedic knowledge.
That's such a good point. It highlights how Ayurveda sees the body as this complex, interconnected system. So we've got these three doshas, each with its own characteristics, and they combine to make our unique Prakriti. But how do we actually figure out our own dosha balance, besides those online quizzes?
It's definitely more nuanced than that, yeah. While those quizzes can be a fun starting point, the most accurate way to figure out your Prakriti is to consult with a qualified Ayurvedic practitioner. They can really use their expertise, consider all those factors we've discussed, and offer personalized insights.
You mentioned being interested in the traditional methods. Does a consultation with an Ayurvedic practitioner typically involve those traditional assessments, like the Nadi Pariksha?
Yes, lots of practitioners incorporate Nadi Pariksha and other traditional techniques.
In one of the articles you shared, it mentioned that this pulse diagnosis, it's not just about checking your heart rate, it's about like sensing the qualities of your energy, right?
Exactly. It's about feeling those subtle pulsations that reflect the balance of the doshas in your system.
So it's almost like a window into your overall state of being, not just your physical health.
Precisely, and that's one of the things that makes Ayurveda so fascinating, this holistic view that recognizes the interconnectedness of everything.
I love that perspective. It's not just about treating symptoms, but about understanding the root cause and addressing that at a deeper level. This is giving me so much to think about. It's like we're laying the foundation for a whole new way of understanding ourselves and our health. But before we get too far ahead, let's explore each dosha in a bit more detail, starting with Vata. You mentioned feeling a connection to that Vata energy. What is it about Vata that resonates with you?
I think it's the creativity and that constant movement. Vata is all about change, adaptability, new experiences, very dynamic energy.
I can see how that would appeal to you, especially with your love for exploring new ideas and pushing boundaries. So let's dive into the world of Vata and uncover what makes it so unique.
Vata is associated with the elements of air and ether. So that gives it this light, airy, and mobile quality.
It's like that gust of wind, right? Constantly swirling and shifting.
Exactly. And you see that reflected in like the physical and mental characteristics of Vata types.
You mentioned earlier that Vata types tend to be slender and have dry skin. Are there any other physical traits commonly associated with Vata?
Yeah, they often have a light frame, delicate features, and cool, dry skin. They might experience cold hands and feet, irregular digestion, and have difficulty gaining weight.
Sounds like Vata is all about movement and lightness, which can be both a blessing and a challenge, I guess.
Absolutely. When Vata is balanced, it brings creativity, adaptability, that sense of lightness and joy. But when it's out of balance, it can lead to anxiety, insomnia, digestive issues.
So finding ways to ground and calm that airy Vata energy is key.
Exactly. And that's where understanding your Prakriti becomes so powerful, right?
Yeah.
It gives you that knowledge to make choices that support your unique constitution.
I'm already seeing how this could apply to everyday life. But before we jump into practical tips, let's shift to the fiery Pitta dosha. You mentioned feeling drawn to that Pitta intensity. What aspects resonate with you?
It's the drive, the passion, the leadership qualities. Pitta is all about transformation, taking charge.
I can see how those qualities would align with your own ambitious nature and desire to make a difference in the world. So let's unpack Pitta and explore its fiery characteristics.
Pitta is associated with the element of fire, which gives it that hot, sharp, intense quality. It's the energy of transformation and metabolism, both physically and mentally.
So Pitta is the driving force behind our actions, our ambitions.
Exactly, and you can see that reflected in the physical and mental characteristics of Pitta types.
You mentioned earlier that Pitta types are typically strong and athletic. Are there any other physical traits we see with Pitta?
Yeah, they often have a medium build, sharp features, warm, oily skin. They might have a strong appetite, a tendency towards redness or inflammation, and a very competitive spirit.
It sounds like Pitta is all about intensity and focus, which, like the other doshas, can be a strength and a potential challenge, right?
Absolutely. When Pitta is balanced, it brings passion, intelligence, a strong sense of purpose. But out of balance, it can lead to anger, irritability, inflammatory conditions.
So finding ways to cool and calm that fiery Pitta energy is key.
Exactly. And again, that's where understanding your Prakriti comes in. It empowers you to make those choices that support your unique needs.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Each dosha has its unique strengths and challenges, and that balance is key to well-being. Now, let's turn to the grounded Kapha dosha. What is it about Kapha that speaks to you?
I admire their stability, their compassion, and their ability to create harmony.
I can see how those qualities would resonate with you, especially your nurturing nature and your desire to create a peaceful environment. So let's explore Kapha and its grounding characteristics.
Kapha is associated with the elements of earth and water, giving it that stable, heavy, grounding quality. It's the energy of structure, lubrication, nourishment.
It's like the foundation that holds everything together.
Exactly. And again, you see this reflected in the physical and mental characteristics of Kapha types.
You mentioned earlier that Kapha types tend to have a sturdy build and a calm demeanor. Anything else we typically see?
Yeah, they often have a larger frame, soft features, and thick, lustrous hair. They might have a slower metabolism, a tendency towards weight gain, and a very calm, peaceful disposition.
So Kapha is all about stability and nurturing. Again, a strength, but potentially a challenge too, right?
Absolutely. When Kapha is balanced, it brings strength, endurance, a sense of peace, contentment. But out of balance, it can lead to lethargy, congestion, emotional stagnation.
So stimulating and invigorating that grounded Kapha energy is essential.
Exactly. And here's where understanding your Prakriti is so helpful, right? It empowers you to make choices that support your unique constitution.
I'm seeing a clear theme here. Each dosha has its unique gifts and potential pitfalls, and finding that balance is key to unlocking our full potential. Okay, we've covered a lot, exploring the characteristics of each dosha and how they contribute to our overall Prakriti. But how does this actually play out in our lives? Can knowing our dominant doshas really make a difference?
Absolutely. It's like having a personalized roadmap to navigate your health and make choices that really support your needs.
I love that analogy. So, how does this roadmap actually work? Can you give us some concrete examples of how understanding our prakriti can guide our choices?
Let's take diet, for example. Knowing your dominant dosha can help you choose foods that actually balance your energies and promote optimal digestion.
So, it's not just about following some generic healthy diet, it's about tailoring your food choices to you specifically.
Exactly. For instance, someone with a predominantly Vata constitution, characterized by air and ether, they might benefit from warm grounding foods like soups, stews, root vegetables.
That makes sense. Vata is all about lightness and movement, so grounding foods would help bring that balance.
Exactly. On the other hand, someone with a predominantly Pitta constitution, characterized by fire, they would benefit from cooling, calming foods like cucumber, coconut water, leafy greens.
So, for Pitta, it's all about counteracting that fire with cooler options.
Exactly. And finally, someone with a predominantly Kapha constitution, characterized by earth and water, they would benefit from light, stimulating foods like lentils, beans, cooked greens.
So, for Kapha, it's about keeping things moving, preventing that stagnation.
Exactly. And this is just one example, right? Understanding your Prakriti can guide your choices in so many areas, like exercise, stress management, even your daily routine.
This is giving me so much to think about. It's like we're peeling back the layers and discovering a whole new level of understanding. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's look at how each dosha might experience imbalances and what we can do to restore that equilibrium. So let's start with Vata. What are some common signs that Vata is out of balance?
When Vata is out of balance, you might see things like anxiety, insomnia, digestive issues, dry skin, and feeling scattered, ungrounded.
Makes sense given Vata's connection to air and movement. So how can we help ground and calm that excess Vata energy?
Creating a regular routine, prioritizing restful sleep, incorporating grounding practices like yoga and meditation can be really helpful.
It's about creating a sense of stability and slowing down that whirlwind of Vata energy.
Exactly, and choosing warm, nourishing foods can also help soothe and ground Vata.
This is already giving me so many practical ideas. Now let's move on to Pitta. What are some common signs that Pitta is out of balance?
When Pitta is out of balance, it can show up as anger, irritability, skin inflammation, digestive issues like heartburn, and feeling overheated or burned out.
Makes sense, given Pitta's association with fire. So how do we cool and calm that excess Pitta energy?
Engaging in cooling activities like swimming or spending time in nature, practicing stress-reducing techniques like meditation, and choosing those cooling foods can all help pacify Pitta.
It sounds like it's all about finding ways to soothe that fiery intensity and create a sense of peace.
Exactly, and avoiding spicy foods, excessive heat, and overwork can also help prevent Pitta from becoming aggravated.
This is so insightful. Now let's turn to Kapha. What are some signs that Kapha is out of balance?
When cough is out of balance, it can manifest as lethargy, weight gain, congestion, slow digestion, and feeling stuck or stagnant.
Again, makes sense given Kapha's association with earth and water. So how do we stimulate and invigorate that excess Kapha energy?
Incorporating invigorating exercise, choosing light and stimulating foods, and creating a stimulating and engaging environment can all help balance kapha.
So it's all about getting things moving, preventing that stagnation.
Exactly. And avoiding heavy, oily foods, excessive sleep, and a sedentary lifestyle can also help keep kapha in check.
This is all starting to make so much sense. I'm seeing the connections between the doshas, their characteristics, and how they can show up in our lives. Well, we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive, exploring the three doshas, their unique qualities, and how they contribute to our individual prakriti. But how do we actually determine our own dominant dosha? That's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our journey. Stay tuned as we go deeper into Ayurveda and uncover the secrets to unlocking your personalized blueprint for well-being.
Welcome back. Glad to have you with us as we continue this exploration of Ayurveda and how it can help you understand your own personal, blueprint for well-being.
I'm excited to dive in deeper. We've talked about the three doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Now I'm curious about how we actually determine which dosha or combination is dominant in our own constitution. You mentioned that consulting with an Ayurvedic practitioner is like the most accurate way to figure this out. But for those of us just starting to explore Ayurveda on our own, what are some resources or tools we could use to maybe get a sense of our dosha balance?
Oh, there are definitely resources out there, things like questionnaires, online assessments. They can give you a starting point, but
Yeah.
it's important to like approach them with a bit of a critical eye because they might not be as comprehensive or personalized as a consultation with a qualified practitioner.
Right. And one of the articles you shared mentioned that paying attention to our physical characteristics, mental tendencies, even how we react to different foods and environments that can give us clues about our dominant dosha. Is that a good place to start?
Absolutely. Self-observation is super powerful in Ayurveda. By just paying attention to your body, your mind, you start to notice patterns that might point to your dominant dosha.
So, like, if someone tends to feel cold easily, has dry skin, struggles with anxiety, could that suggest a Vata imbalance?
Exactly. And if someone's, competitive, easily angered, has a strong appetite, that might suggest a Pitta imbalance.
And someone who's easygoing, slower metabolism, struggles with lethargy, maybe that's Kapha.
Precisely. By noticing these patterns,
Yeah.
comparing them to the characteristics of each dosha, you can start to get a feel for your unique constitution.
You also mentioned in your notes that you were kind of fascinated by this idea of Prakriti not being like totally fixed. Is it possible for our dosha balance to actually shift over time?
Well, while our underlying Prakriti is fairly constant, our doshas can definitely fluctuate based on things like, diet, lifestyle, stress, even the seasons.
So it's like our doshas are constantly in motion, responding to the world around us.
Exactly. And by understanding this dance, we can make choices that support our natural balance, and help prevent those imbalances from cropping up.
Makes sense. It's not about fitting into a rigid box, but understanding our tendencies and working with them.
Precisely. And that's the real power of Ayurveda. It empowers us to take charge of our own health and well-being.
You mentioned that understanding our Prakriti is like having this personalized roadmap for our health. Can you expand on that a bit?
Imagine going on a road trip. You wouldn't just set off without a map, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, understanding your Prakriti gives you that map to navigate your health and make choices that align with your constitution.
So it's like having this guidebook that tells you what nourishes you, what depletes you, how to stay on course.
Exactly. For example, if you know you have a predominantly Vata constitution, your roadmap might prioritize routine, warmth, grounding practices.
And for a Pitta constitution, it might be prioritizing those cooling activities, stress management, avoiding overstimulation.
Precisely. And for Kapha, prioritizing invigorating exercise, light and stimulating foods, creating a dynamic environment.
I love how this concept brings Ayurveda to life. It's not just these abstract principles, but about actually applying them to our lives in a practical way.
Absolutely. And the more you understand your Prakriti, the more intuitive your choices become.
I'm curious, from your experience, what are some common misconceptions people have about Ayurveda?
I think one common one is that it's just about diet and herbs. While those are important aspects, Ayurveda goes way beyond that. It encompasses lifestyle recommendations, yoga, meditation, even spiritual principles.
Another one I've heard is that Ayurveda is this one-size-fits-all system.
That could be further from the truth. As we've been talking about, Ayurveda is all about personalization. It recognizes that we're all unique and require a tailored approach to health and well-being.
You mentioned in your research that you were particularly interested in how Ayurveda approaches mental and emotional well-being. Can you talk a bit about that?
Absolutely. Ayurveda recognizes that deep connection between the mind and body, and it offers a ton of tools and practices for cultivating mental and emotional balance.
So it's not just about physical health, but creating a sense of harmony, in all aspects of our lives.
Exactly. For example, practices like meditation, yoga, which are deeply rooted in Ayurveda, they can have these profound effects on our mental and emotional state.
One of the articles you shared talked about how Ayurveda views mental and emotional imbalances as like just as significant as physical imbalances.
Oh, absolutely. Ayurveda understands that our mental and emotional state directly impacts our physical health. Like chronic stress, anxiety, depression, those things can weaken our immune system, make us more susceptible to illness.
So it's all connected, just like the doshas are interconnected within our Prakriti.
Exactly. And by addressing mental and emotional imbalances, we can create this ripple effect that positively impacts our overall well-being.
This is so fascinating. It's like we're uncovering a whole new dimension of health and well-being.
I'm glad you're finding it insightful. It's truly empowering to understand these principles and apply them to our lives.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Ayurveda offers a variety of tools and practices for supporting that mental and emotional balance. Can you give us some specific examples?
Sure, one powerful practice is meditation, right? It helps calm the mind, reduce stress, promote a sense of inner peace.
You mentioned in your notes that you've been trying out meditation. What's your experience been like?
It's been great, honestly. I've noticed a significant reduction in my stress levels and more clarity and focus.
That's wonderful to hear. It's amazing how such a simple practice can have such powerful effects.
Absolutely. And there's so many different types of meditations, so you can find one that really works for you.
Another practice you mentioned was yoga. How does yoga support mental and emotional well-being?
Yoga is this holistic practice that integrates physical postures, breathing exercises, meditation. It helps release tension, improve flexibility, and promote that sense of groundedness.
In one of the articles, it talked about specific yoga poses, targeting different doshas, bringing them back into balance. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, absolutely. For example, for someone with excess Vata, calming, grounding poses like child's pose or seated forward bends, those can be really beneficial.
And for someone with excess pitta, those cooling and calming poses, like fish pose, legs up the wall.
Exactly. And for Kapha, stimulating poses like sun salutations, warrior poses.
I love how yoga can be so tailored to individual needs. Another great example of that personalized approach in Ayurveda.
Exactly. And beyond yoga and meditation, Ayurveda really stresses those lifestyle choices that support mental and emotional balance, like getting enough sleep, spending time in nature, cultivating positive relationships.
This is also valuable. It's like we're being given a toolkit to create a more balanced and fulfilling life.
That's exactly it. It's about empowering ourselves to make those choices that support our well-being.
I'm eager to explore more of these tools, but before we move on, I'm curious about how Ayurveda views the concept of aging. Is there anything we can do from an Ayurvedic perspective to support healthy aging?
That's a great question. Ayurveda recognizes aging as a natural part of life, and it offers guidance on how to age gracefully, maintain vitality as we get older.
You mentioned earlier that you were intrigued by Ayurveda's emphasis on preventative care. Does
Well,
that play a role in healthy aging?
absolutely. Ayurveda is all about preventing imbalances from even arising in the first place. By following a lifestyle that aligns with our Prakriti, making choices that support our natural balance, we can prevent premature aging and promote longevity.
So it's about being proactive, not waiting for things to go wrong.
Exactly. And that includes paying attention to our diet, managing stress, getting enough sleep, exercising regularly.
One of the articles mentions certain herbs and spices being particularly helpful for healthy aging. Can you give us some examples?
Sure, ashwagandha, for instance, is an adaptogenic herb, so it helps the body deal with stress, promotes vitality. Turmeric, a powerful anti-inflammatory, can help protect against age-related diseases. And ginger, a warming spice, supports digestion and circulation.
It's amazing how these simple, natural remedies can be so powerful.
Absolutely. And beyond herbs and spices, Ayurveda recommends things like oil massage and gentle yoga to promote flexibility, circulation, and overall well-being as we age.
This is so empowering. It's like a roadmap to navigate aging gracefully and with vitality.
Exactly. And it's never too early or too late to start incorporating these principles into our lives.
Well, we've covered so much ground today, understanding the doshas and prakriti, exploring practical tools for supporting, our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. But I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this vast system of knowledge.
You're absolutely right. Ayurveda is an ocean of wisdom. There's always more to learn.
And that's what makes it so exciting. It's a lifelong journey.
Couldn't agree more. A journey I'm honored to be on. And I encourage everyone listening to embark on their own exploration of Ayurveda.
Well, expert speaker, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. This deep dive into Ayurveda has been incredibly enriching. I'm feeling so inspired to keep learning and applying these principles to my own life.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, understanding your Prakriti is just the start. The magic happens when you actually apply this knowledge. Make choices that support your journey towards balance and well-being.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are feeling empowered to explore the world of Ayurveda, unlock your own blueprint for well-being. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Stay tuned.
We're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into Ayurveda. It's amazing how much we've already uncovered about, the doshas, prakriti, this whole connection between our mind, body, and spirit.
It really is a fascinating system. And, we've only just scratched the surface, but I think we've given everyone a good foundation to keep exploring and applying these principles to their own lives. At the start of our deep dive, you mentioned wanting to learn how to create a personalized approach to well-being using Ayurveda. What are your thoughts now that we've explored some of the key concepts?
I'm feeling really inspired. It's like, wow, a whole new world has opened up. I'm excited to start experimenting with some of the things we've discussed, like adding more warming and grounding foods to my diet to balance my Vata.
That's great. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. No need to make huge changes all at once. Start small, see how it feels.
Good advice.
Mhm.
I'm also curious about how to incorporate Ayurveda into my everyday routine. Any specific practices you recommend for someone just starting out?
One that's simple but really powerful is tongue scraping. It's an Ayurvedic technique that helps remove toxins from the mouth and improve digestion.
You mentioned in your notes that you were intrigued by tongue scraping. What was it that caught your eye?
Yeah, I read that it can help improve our sense of taste and boost oral hygiene.
Yeah.
Seems like a simple, effective way to start the day.
Exactly, and it only takes a couple of minutes. Another practice you might enjoy is oil pulling, swishing oil around in your mouth for a few minutes to detoxify and cleanse.
I've heard of oil pulling, but I've always been a little unsure about it. What kind of oil do you use and what are the benefits?
Coconut oil is a popular choice. It's got those antibacterial and antifungal properties.
Mhm.
It can help reduce plaque, freshen breath, and even whiten your teeth.
Wow, those are impressive benefits. I'm definitely going to try oil pulling. Seems like a great addition to my morning routine.
Definitely. And remember, consistency is key with any Ayurvedic practice. Even those small daily rituals can have a big impact on our well-being over time.
You also mentioned wanting to learn more about Ayurvedic herbs and spices. Any recommendations for someone just starting to explore herbalism?
One that's really versatile and gentle is ashwagandha. It's an adaptogen, so it helps your body deal with stress. It can also promote better sleep and boost energy.
Ashwagandha sounds perfect for me. I tend to get overwhelmed by stress pretty easily.
It's a good one to start with and generally safe. Another herb you might consider is tulsi, also known as holy basil, revered in Ayurveda for its calming and purifying properties. You can drink it as a tea or take it as a supplement.
I love the idea of incorporating herbal teas. It seems like a nice, soothing way to experience the benefits of Ayurveda.
Absolutely. And of course, always a good idea to check with your doctor before trying any new herbs or supplements, especially if you have any existing health conditions.
That's a really important reminder. We need to approach herbalism with respect and seek guidance when needed.
Definitely. As you delve deeper into Ayurveda, you'll find a ton of resources out there, books, websites, online courses, even local Ayurvedic practitioners who can offer guidance.
You mentioned at the beginning feeling overwhelmed by all the information on Ayurveda. Do you feel more equipped now to navigate those resources?
Absolutely. This deep dive has given me a solid understanding of the core principles, and I feel more confident in finding reliable sources and information that, resonates with me.
That's great to hear. Learning about Ayurveda is a lifelong journey, and there's always something new to discover.
I'm excited to continue this journey. It's so empowering to realize we have so much control over our own health and well-being.
Exactly, and Ayurveda gives us that roadmap to navigate that journey with wisdom, balance, and grace.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. I want to thank you for, guiding me through this exploration of Ayurveda. It's been really enriching.
It's been my pleasure. I'm so happy you found it valuable. And remember, this is just the beginning. The magic really happens when you start applying these principles, creating a personalized approach that works for you. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this Ayurvedic adventure. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to embark on your own journey towards balance and well-being. Until next time, may you live in harmony with your true nature.